We can feel it in the air. Hot, stuffy, 95 degrees, Friday night on the sidelines. If that doesn't sound like football weather, you're in the wrong place because that's what it is in Alabama at the start of the season. Hello again, everyone. It is officially high school football game week here in Central Alabama. This is the Under the Lights podcast. I'm Kyle Parmley, joined by Gary Lloyd for another season. Gary, does it feel like football weather to you?
It feels like summer camp, fall camp weather for sure. Like I thought when you opened there with you can feel it in the air. I thought you were going to give us a little Phil Collins. That would have been nice. But yeah, boom, boom. But it's yeah, super hot. We'll have our we're backpack journalists these days, so this first month and a half or so of the season is always quite a workout. But definitely excited that it's back.
Me too. And so we have the perfect thing for you when you're sitting in the stands on Friday night watching your favorite team play. The Under the Lights preseason magazine, it doubles up as great reading material to get you ready for all the teams in the area and as a fan. How about that? It's going to be great. If you haven't seen one of these around town, reach out to me or Gary. We'll get you set up with one. Chances are you've seen some of the Under the Lights Facebook page, Twitter page, social media pages, all the stuff we've got going on this fall. Here at Starnes Media, we're still doing the same stuff. We're the same outlets. You know us, whether you know the Vestavia Voice, the Hoover Sun, 280 Living, Village Living, Homewood Star, Cahaba Sun. We're still all of those places that we just rolled our sports coverage into one umbrella, Under the Lights, which you've seen if you follow this podcast or our magazine. We're all still here, just trying to find the most effective way to get you guys all the stuff that you enjoy following along. So, Gary, let's talk about the 2024 high school football season. Before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends at Sin Lawn. They are bringing us this podcast all season long. We can't wait. These guys are your go-to for all things artificial turf. Whether you're looking to upgrade your backyard, create a pet-friendly space, or enhance your golf game with a custom putting green, Sin Lawn has the solution for you. Top-notch installations for both residential and commercial use and wholesale turf sales. Sin Lawn of Alabama is the premier choice for artificial turf in the state. You can call them at 205-590-9549 or visit the showroom at 2018 Old Montgomery Highway. That's Sin Lawn. Artificial grass never looked more natural. So go to Gary's backyard to check out a demonstration maybe one day this fall. But all right, Gary.
I gotta work on the short game.
Absolutely, me too. It's not looking good right now. So that's why we're talking about football and not golf, because we got a lot of great things to get to here about this 2024 season. Let's run through a few headlines. If you haven't thought about high school football since last December when we last talked to you guys, Briarwood, Chelsea, and Spain Park among some of the teams that dropped down classifications when the Alabama High School Athletic Association reclassified. They do this once every 2 years. And Briarwood dropping from 6 to 5A, and then the likes of Chelsea and Spain Park dropping from 7 to 6A. Usually this is a really good thing when you drop down in terms of competitiveness. Gary, do you see these three teams benefiting from that move?
I definitely do. I think we all kind of knew Chelsea was going to drop down to 6A. I think a lot of us, kind of thought Briarwood was going to make that descent back into Class 5A. I think maybe the one that surprised a lot of people was Spain Park moving to 6A. And they might be down there 2 years and come right back up to 7A at the next reclassification. We'll see. So I do think it benefits all three of them. I mean, it's a depth thing. If you're a small 7A school, now you're automatically one of the bigger 6A schools. Briarwood has the multiplier aspect being a private school, but I think they're right there in their wheelhouse as well. And I think for Spain Park, especially dropping down to a 6A, where you get the last 2 years of Brock Bradley's career at quarterback being in that 6A Region 3, I think that's going to benefit them maybe the most.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think all three will benefit from that. And I kind of agree. Spain Park, I think this makes them one of the contenders in Class 6A. So we'll see how that develops. Another headline, Clay Chaltville, fresh off a Class 6A state championship, Drew Gilmer took the job at Hoover. We'll discuss this situation a little bit more. But as for Clay, Stuart Floyd ascends to the head job. If you know anything about Stuart Floyd's history, you know he was one of the finalists for this job several years back. He gets this job this time. He's a Clay guy. He won the state championship there as a quarterback. He's been on the staffs of a few of the state championship teams, including last year. And now he'll be the head man in charge of what should be another really good Clay Chalkville team this fall.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see. He was kind of working with, he's a quarterback guy. He's been an offensive coordinator for years, and it'll be interesting to see with Aaron Fry taking over at quarterback. Hearing some things about him, his growth. That he's a little bit more of a passer than Jalen Mbakwe was, and we saw near the end of the year last year, especially in the playoffs, Jalen Mbakwe was out there looking like Peyton Manning throwing the ball. It was like, where did this come from? He's not
Yeah.
just a runner. This guy can throw it. So expecting big things from him, and just interested to see Stewart on the sideline. We never see him during games because he's up in the booth, calling things, and he's gonna call the offense just like he has in the past. He's just going to do it from the sidelines. So we'll see if there's any adjustment there for him, and maybe he'll tell us how it's going mid game.
Yeah, Stewart's great. He's great to talk to during the week, during the games. He's a great guy, and I can't wait to see what he does there. Obviously, one of the headlines that has gone beyond the realm of high school football and become big news is the situation at Hoover High School. If you're watching this, you already know what happened. Hoover High School head coach Drew Gilmer and defensive coordinator Adam Helms. They were originally put on administrative leave in early August. They resigned a couple days later. The videos have circulated. All of that to say, Chip English is now the interim head coach at Hoover. He's been a head coach before. He's been at Grissom. He's been at Albertville. He came from North Carolina before that. So we'll see how this goes. It's got to be just a tremendous undertaking to not only take over a program midstream in the summer, but at a place like Hoover where you don't get a lot of time to settle in. Like if you're a Hoover Buck, like you're expected to win. So Gary, what's your kind of take on this situation?
Just sad, confused, I guess. We've covered Coach Gilmer especially for years and years, and I me, I'm a big context guy. I don't like to just see a 4-second clip, and people say one thing about it, and then some coaches that we know say, well, I'm not defending it, but it looks like he might have been doing this or that. And then another video running across, everybody could see it for themselves. Whether you're a physical, tough football coach or not, it was tough to watch, and I feel for those players that were a part of that, and certainly feel for the coaches, involved in just that community. So hopefully, as the whatever process is taking place at this point beyond beyond their obvious employment with Hoover City Schools, we'll just let that legal process play out, and hope it turns out for the best.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Gary. It's just one of those things. Hoover has so long to get back to that state championship level that they haven't been to since 2017, and the last several years, Thompson has really been at the top of its game and kind of taken that throne. So this is obviously not what the Hoover community had in mind when they made the coaching transition over the summer, but yeah, we'll see how Chip English does. And on that note, Chip English is going to join us. He's the subject of the interview segment on this week's Under the Lights podcast. Let's hear from him now. All right, today's interview segment presented by our friends at Sin Lawn. We've got Hoover interim head coach Chip English. Coach English, welcome to the show, and we really appreciate you coming on. First thing, let's talk about Sunday. You got to meet the Hoover fan base as the head coach for the first time. Just what was that like? You got to see tons of people at the Galleria, and from what it sounds like, it's just a big day for the Bucks.
It is, man. It's a cool deal. I'm really excited for our players. Last year I was able there to watch it, and There's the bell. But it's a cool deal for our guys. It allows them to feel like they're college players. And, a lot of what we do here at Hoover is very collegiate based in regards to how we treat our players, the resources that we have, and the exposure that we give them. And so that's just a great example of being able to kind of promote the team and allow our community to see their faces without helmets on. And it's a really cool deal. And I was able to kind of put some names to faces and able to kind of engage with the crowd. So really excited and excited for our kids to be able to kind of have an experience like that.
I saw a couple of photos and video and that kind of thing, and I don't know that I've ever seen, even if it's Black Friday, I don't know that I've seen the Galleria that full. It seems like there's a lot of fervor, a lot of excitement around this particular this Hoover team this year. Did you kind of feel that?
I did. We definitely had a lot more people there this year than we did last year, and I can only go off of 2 years of experience. But there's the energy and an excitement that, from what people tell me, and you included, like that hadn't been here in a little while. So I'm really excited to see the kids have been working extremely hard, given just max effort every single day. And so when you have a group that's talented and they're working really hard, it's going to be a fun year.
Coach, obviously, like you mentioned, this is your second year at Hoover, but plenty of just the casual fans in the community, even around the metro area, probably don't know you very well. So just kind of give us a little bit of the 30,000-foot view of your background and how you ended up at Hoover.
Yeah, went to high school right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. Was fortunate enough to play college football at the University of Pikeville. Met my wife there. She played college basketball there. And so moved back to North Carolina and started my coaching career. I was very fortunate to coach at a place called A.L. Brown High School in Kannapolis, North Carolina. Perennial program. We often made it to the third or fourth round and multiple state championships. Not when I was there, but we went deep into the playoffs every time. And I was very fortunate enough to be under two individuals that did it the right way. And so I tell people this: I might not be the best coach, but I do know how it's supposed to look because of the people that I coached under. And so really fortunate. When I was 26, I had an opportunity to be a head coach, took over a program that won just 6 games in the previous 6 years. Fortunately, we were able to turn it around in 3 years and go 10-3 and win a conference championship and did some good things. And then made my way down to Huntsville, Alabama, took over the Grissom job. They were falling on tough times as well. I was fortunate enough to kind of bring that team and with the help of the coaching staff and players, obviously, to a playoff team for the first time in I think 16 or 17 years prior to that. So was able to kind of do some things, and I try to tell people all the time, oh, you turn around programs. It's not a magic pill. It's not something. It's just a matter of hard work. And really making sure you're maximizing your roster. And I was able to do that. Spent 2 years at Albertville, incredible place to live, and had an opportunity to come down here to Hoover under Coach Waldrop, and wanted to do that. I have children. I have 5 kids, and so having a son that plays football and a daughter that plays basketball, it felt like a great fit for me and my family. And so we made the move 2 years ago, and so that's kind of where we are, and we're excited to be here.
What are the biggest differences in North Carolina high school football and Alabama high school football?
Yeah, so North Carolina has great ball. They churn out a lot of players. I will say this about Alabama: like every sport, for the most part, in all these schools that I've been at least, every sport's its own business or entity. In North Carolina, it's more like athletic departments. Here, the football program is its own world. The basketball program, it's its own world. And the resources that are poured into athletics in Alabama are far greater than what they're doing in North Carolina right now. And so while the kids are, very similar, the resources are definitely different. And I will say this: the depth of teams are greater in Alabama. And what I mean by that is, you look at a region down here, 1 through 8 might be really, really good football. In North Carolina, you might only have 1 through 5, the top 5 teams. So I would say the depth is a little bit better in Alabama overall. But loved my time in North Carolina, but it was time to get down to Alabama for sure.
Well, you're about to have to go down to Florida for your first game of the year. Take me a little bit behind the curtain. What goes into, not only, now you're the interim coach and there's a lot of logistics that have to get taken care of that you didn't think you were going to have to be a part of. So with your team traveling to Western High School in South Florida on Saturday night for a kickoff, what kind of is so much different this week as compared to a normal game week in terms of travel logistics and all that stuff you guys have to
Yeah,
take care of?
it's a big undertaking, and prior to me being the interim head coach, I was kind of dealing with a lot of that as the assistant head coach, and so had an opportunity to kind of sit in on the meetings, the director down there at Broward County Showcase. So I was involved already, but obviously now making the decisions and those final decisions in regards to itinerary and travel. It's a crazy week. We've had 2 scrimmages the last 2 Saturdays because we didn't play a jamboree, so we wanted to make sure we got some good film on some kids and really were able to make corrections in our game day operations that we needed to go through. But starting on I think August the 11th, we will not have a day off until the Saturday after Spain Park. So that side of it, that's kids and coaches included. Like we're literally having some type of team function practice. The Buck Day yesterday. We've had some type of team function for like 21 days straight. So it's a long month. The travel is obviously different. We fly down Thursday morning, and it's an all day travel event. We'll do some walkthroughs at the hotel in their ballroom Thursday night, and then Friday will be a little bit heavier than the normal day before a game situation, just because we were going to miss a day. Now the good thing about us missing Thursday as far as on the field, we've kind of incorporated some game prep into last week as well. So we're not really losing a day, but you definitely want to kind of get their feet under them, get them moving around down there in the Florida heat a little bit too, and get them acclimated. And then, what people don't understand is like going into the game, there's a lot of prep, some travel, you're talking hotel assignments. The Broward County Showcase is doing a great job. They're wanting to make this as bowl experience as possible. So we're going to go to local attractions. We're going to go to Dave & Buster's to eat. It's the full works. And so really excited for our kids and coaches and families to be able to kind of experience that bowl experience at the high school level, which is, in my opinion, very, very rare. But on the back end of that, on the travel coming back, you know what I mean? So we fly back Sunday morning. We get back, and what people don't realize is, that's a short week for us. So we play Saturday, and then we turn around and play Spain Park on Friday of the next week. So, I've already told the coaches we already have our itinerary. We have a layover in Tampa, and we're going to pull out our computers and get our Sunday meetings done in the airport and do all that. And so that's on the back end. That's kind of been a little bit difficult, if you will, to kind of manage that time and make sure we're preparing ourselves as coaches and the players, obviously, for the next week.
That's a quick, full trip, but you did mention attractions. What's down there in Davie that keeps Hoover's interest that maybe isn't the Miami Dolphins training facility? Because I think it's around town, but you're right there between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Y'all hitting the rodeo grounds in Davie? Where are we headed?
We're going to some extreme action park. They talked about taking us on like the airboats through the Everglades, and we decided the risk reward on that one wasn't quite there for us. So they're gonna, like I said, they're gonna go to Dave & Buster's at night, get to play games. Extreme action park is gonna have putt, go-karts and different things. So it's a really cool deal for them. But we are going to get to, maybe go to the mall and kind of look at some of the things down there. Obviously, trying to keep them off their feet and out of the heat as much as possible, just to kind of deal with that. But yeah, it's a cool deal, man. It's the Broward County Showcase is doing a great job of kind of taking care of us, and they're chauffeuring us around, and it's a neat deal.
Yeah, Coach, I kind of want to get your perspective on, obviously these circumstances the last couple of weeks at Hoover are not ideal for anybody. They're not normal. But how do you balance all of that with this, incredible, like, personal, professional opportunity you've got now? I mean, like you say, you've come up through the coaching ranks. You've had a couple head coaching jobs here in Alabama, and now here you are, the head coach at Hoover, which, as everybody knows, is one of the premier programs. So how do you balance the chaos with, hey man, this is a really cool opportunity for you and your family?
Well, it is, and I don't take it lightly. I mean, it's an incredible honor for the administration, Dr. Lamy and Ms. Hogan, to kind of entrust me with the program. I was heavily involved as the offensive coordinator and assistant head coach before. So, the goal for us is anytime you have a transition like that, you want to make it as seamless as possible for the student athletes. Adults can kind of adjust and modify and kind of readjust, if you will, but you really want to make it as smooth as possible for the kids. And we haven't missed a practice, we haven't missed a meeting, we haven't missed a lift, and so for that, we're kind of on par. Another thing that helps too is those no days off. If you stay busy, you don't have time to sit back and do a whole lot of anything else. So we've been busy, but that this transition, I've coached ball a long time, and the football side of it is what it is. You just take care of it, and the student athletes and the players, they're not the same, but they're kids. They're 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old players, and that don't typically change. And so just getting adjusted to doing a little bit more interviews like this, and kind of dealing with that. But it's been good, man. I've had incredible support from the coaching staff, from the administration, and honestly, my wife. There's been a couple more hours spent up here at the office, and so she's had to take care of the kids a little bit more.
You mentioned, more interviews like this, stuff like that. But just for you, from just the football aspect, biggest difference is going from OC to interim head coach, just in your day to day. Is there much change? Is there just a little more stress? What's it like?
I don't know if stress is the answer. I mean, obviously, my scope goes from just offense to now expanding to special teams. Lifting, defense, those sorts of things. And so, again, I kind of lean on my staff with that. We have some really experienced coaches, a lot of veteran head coaches and coordinators that are involved. I promoted Josh Reeves, our defensive line coach. I promoted him to defensive coordinator, and Coach Glover is another veteran on that side of the ball that really adds a lot of value to what we do. And so while I can't say I don't worry about defense, I trust the men that are over there running that room, and likewise with special teams, everybody's going to be involved. It's just I need to be a little bit more in the know about those things, more so for game management purposes than to like say I don't like this blitz, do something else. It's not so much that, but just a matter of game management and kind of what we have going into the game. I got to put the big picture together, and so while I'm involved into everything, my focus is still preparing the players, and now it's just dealing with three phases of the game. I'm still heavily involved with the offense, and I'll still call most of the game, and I'll lean on those guys. Coach Hogan has done a great job with our offensive line and up front and protections and run game. So just kind of backing up a little bit and having a bigger scope on the overall program.
So is this going to be like a Mike Leach or a Mike Gundy thing, where when the defense is on the field, your back's to the field and you're talking to the QBs?
Listen, I kept the QBs with me. I just think that's a position that I like to coach and kind of be in the know with, and so while there might be a moment where I'm in the tent talking to the QBs or something, we also, Coach Gillespie, our tight end wide receiver coach, and also Russ Pilkington, our wide receiver coach, they're going to do a lot of the communicating on the sideline, so I can manage the game and kind of be in the moment.
Last thing, give us a little bit of a scouting report on Western High School. I mean, none of us up here know anything about them. So what do we get on Saturday?
Yeah, so they're a large school. They got about 3,600 students. So they're up there with us in regards to the volume of kids that they can pull in. And so went to the 4th round last year, had a really good year. Lost a quarterback to, I think he went to Virginia Tech last year, but they got a new kid from Nebraska. So, like Alabama, Florida is very transient when it comes to players, and so they got a handful of transfers coming in, and just like a lot of the top programs around the Miami area, they've benefited from those transfers, and so they do some good things defensively. They stay in odd front. Their 2 outside linebackers like to come and show a lot in regards to their blitzes and how much pressure they bring. They play fast and aggressive, and hopefully we can use that against them a little bit to keep them honest with what we can do. I got a great feeling that we can run the football, and that's going to be where it all starts. But then all of a sudden, Mac, our quarterback, he can look out there and he can see something. And if they're giving us something, that's the basis of our offense. We're going to go where you're not. If you have 7 in the box, we're probably going to throw it. If you have 5 in the box, we're going to run it. And so that's our goal, is to get the ball in space to our playmakers, and we got a lot of them, and that's exciting. And so we feel like we can be right at the end of the day. No matter what you give us, we have an answer for it, and at least we like to feel that way and within our preparation. Offensively, they have 2 wideouts on the outside that can really go. I think they're 6'3" and 6'4", that are burners. And so what they like to do is run, screen, and then they'll throw the bomb. And so if we can keep everything in front of us and kind of make them fight for every yard that they get, that's the goal. The bend and don't break type of deal. And I think if we can do that and not turn the ball over, it can be a fun day for us.
Got anything else, Gary?
I think I'm good. I just was marking down, Mike Leach reference number 1 of the podcast season for you. I think I had the over under at 16.5 for this fall. So we are well on our way.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, if anybody's going to keep his legacy alive, I'll gladly take that mantle.
Yeah, it'll be you.
There you go. He's a good one to keep alive for sure.
No doubt. Well, high school football season is here. Coach, we want to thank you for coming on today. We're looking forward to covering your team throughout the year. Safe travels down there. Have a great time, and we'll be in touch.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Coach.
Big thanks to Coach English for joining us on our interview segment. We also want to thank our friends at Sinlawn for bringing you the whole pod today. So with that, Gary, let's roll into some other things to talk about. Let's start with the 2023 in review. And I just want to hit a high point. I want to know, what was your favorite team to watch last year? You covered a lot of them. We've got 11 in our coverage area that we've seen. Which one stood out to you the most?
I mean, the easy answer is Clay Chalkville, just covering an undefeated state champion, and the way they won that state championship in Bryant-Denny Stadium over Saraland in what was an instant classic, literally down to the last second kind of thing, was unbelievable. But throughout the course of the year, my answer would be John Carroll. I never really gotten to see them much in the past, and I think I saw them maybe 3-4 times or something last year. As you would know, chose to cover that playoff game at Fairview, made a day of it, wanted to go somewhere I haven't been. And, they make the playoffs for the first time since I think it was 2009. And they go into Fairview, which had an incredible season and just absolute bulls running the ball. And they went in there and got up on them and, held them off and won the game. And Coach Will Mara, after the game, was struggling to hold back the tears. And it was just a very memorable year for that program. It was the 50th anniversary of their 1973 state title team. So you had that playing a part, in the theme throughout the year. And then for those guys to have a year like that, I know those people, those players, cheerleaders, band, parents, they'll remember 2023 for a long, long time. So that John Carroll would be it for me. How about you?
John Carroll was definitely an awesome team to watch last year. They just did so many things that had not been done in so long, and nobody expected, quite frankly, until they actually did it. So I'll give you another team that it was just really cool. I was having a hard time deciding between Vestavia Hills and Hewitt Trussville. because both of these Region 3 schools have both been on like the cusp of doing some really big things over the last several years, but playoff matchups have always kind of just been the bugaboo. Like you can't get past Thompson no matter when you see them in the playoffs. But I do have several like memories of watching Hewitt get some huge wins and then Vestavia getting some big wins, both of them beating Hoover last year. Like that was just such a big deal for both of them. So seeing teams accomplish something that they know means a lot to their community, that's really cool to me. And Hewitt and Vestavia both had great years last year. And so I think we both picked two teams. So yeah,
Yeah.
not really good at narrowing it down there. But with that being said, now here comes the sometimes difficult part, predicting what we're going to see here in 2024. A lot of times these come back to bite me because I say something that just
Same.
is not even close to what actually happens. And then sometimes you feel like a genius because you nailed one, but sometimes those are fewer and further between than you'd like them to be.
Yeah.
So
This is where we end up on bulletin boards, or we end up as the rat poison. So
very much so. If you wonder why you never see a public predictions column from me throughout the week, that is exactly why. So let's talk about who we think is going to be really good here in 2024. Let's start on the team side. Like Gary, give me a team that people are going to see here in 2024 that's going to be a team that really makes its mark on the area and even the state.
I think I said it kind of in the open. I kind of hinted at it, but I think it's Spain Park for me. I think they're going to be, a top 3 to the top 6 Class 6A team now that they've dropped down. You've lost some guys off the defense, whether it be to graduation, to transfers, that kind of thing. But you've got an incredible quarterback prospect in Brock Bradley, who, as of this recording, just a few days ago, got an offer from Clemson. So he can really spin it. Just a very smart, just well-rounded football player. And not just him, you've got CJ Cowley in the backfield, who's going to be that's a name to remember for the next few years at running back. And Dakari Shanks is back there with him. So you've got a two-headed monster at running back. And while Reggie Jackson, who was one of their best receivers last year, left for Hoover, you've got this tight end. And I'm spacing on his name now. Is it Funner Gregory? I forget his name. I'm spacing on his name. If that's his name, great. If not, I apologize. We learn it as the season goes on. But this dude's like 6'7". So you've got a target there that, while maybe he's not, stretch the field like a speed guy, I mean, he's a 6'7" tight end. You talk about a target like that for a guy like Brock Bradley, who also has these two running backs in the backfield. I think Spain Park is going to be able to do a lot of things on offense, and we'll see what the defense is. You're going to have guys hungry, competing for positions and, for playing time. You've got more depth now that you are in a 6A level, as opposed to playing a Hoover and a Thompson and, Hewitt Trussville every week in 7A Region 3. So I think Spain Park is really primed for a really big year.
Yeah. Well, Henry Gregory is the guy that you are
Henry.
telling us to watch out for at tight end for the Jags. I mean, I agree with you. I think
I won't forget the name now, Henry.
Yep. And I think they'll be a team to watch for sure. I'll give you another 6A team, Homewood. And the reason I think this is going to be like a continuation of last year for Homewood. They come off a phenomenal 2022. You've got just all kinds of great players. Woods Ray at quarterback, Jackson Paris, like those guys, that was a phenomenal football team. But you have to replace all those guys, and it's like starting over. And the first 3 games last year, Homewood loses. They start 0-3 for the first time in who knows how long. And somehow, Coach Ben Bergeson, they righted the ship. They stuck with it, and they ended up they won 5 in a row, and then only lost to Pike Road by 1 point in the first round of the playoffs in a game that, depending on who you ask, they feel like they should have won. But then they didn't graduate very much from last year's team. So this Homewood team comes into 2024, they're ready to hit the ground running. They're comfortable with all their personnel. They had 2 quarterbacks last year in Will Myers and Caleb Carson. And they think so much of both of those guys that expect to see both of them on the field at the same time a lot. Caleb Carson's got a lot to offer as a quarterback and just athletically. You can put him in the backfield, you can put him out wide. He can do a lot of damage. So this is a team that you better watch out for in 6A. This Homewood team is you look at the last year, 6-5, whatever. But in context, this team was playing really, really well by the end of the year, and I think they got a lot back, and they're a team that you should watch out for this fall.
For sure.
On the individual side, who's somebody that you think is going to be somebody that people are going to know if they don't already?
I think, you know what? Yeah, I think for me, it's Luke Reynolds at Briarwood Christian. He
Linebacker
can
Luke
play
Reynolds or running back Luke Reynolds?
both, and that's why he's my answer. Coach Forster is going to have to balance that a little bit, and I mean, he's kind of said that, I mean, we'll have to kind of manage, his snap count, I guess, on both sides, but he's a guy that can, I mean, he's a 5-tool guy on a football field, he showed incredible flashes of it last year. I mean, he had some really big games. So I think a lot of people already know his name. I just think this year, as long as he's healthy, I was at the game where he got hurt last year against Helena, and that was so early in that game at Helena, and he already had 4 carries for 26 yards, and then Briarwood just kept hanging around, lost by 4. And, if they had won that game, and I think if Luke Reynolds, I mean, one player doesn't make a team, but I think the way they were calling the game, if he's healthy, I think they win that game. And at the time, they would have sat atop the region. So I don't know how that would have played out after that, but as long as he's healthy, I think he's a guy that you're going to see him rush for 150 and 2 scores while also getting 8 tackles. I think he's a stat sheet stuffer on both sides, and I think he's going to be incredibly important to Briarwood's season in Class 5A this year.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It's not too often when you get a guy that either side of the ball is one of the best players on the field. Yeah. And Luke Reynolds certainly falls into that category. So we'll see how Briarwood manages that this year. I know when they put him over at running back last year, he was a revelation, like immediately. It was like, oh my gosh, like what a weapon. So we'll see if they balance that well this year. I'll give you a guy that you already touched on, Spain Park quarterback Brock Bradley. You've done something when so he's entering his junior season and just recently earned an offer from Clemson. Like that doesn't happen for run of the mill guys, So he started playing towards the end of his freshman season, and you knew then you were already hearing like this kid's got all the arm talent in the world, and went out last year and led the Jags to a 7-3 mark, just a tiebreaker away from the playoffs, and now they seem ready to make a big push. So Brock Bradley's the answer for me. He's a guy that's starting to get a lot of attention, and rightfully so. So I can't wait to see what kind of numbers he puts up this year, but even more so, if Spain Park can really put something together as a team. All right, Gary, it's time for the big unveil. This year, Under the Lights is going to have a game of the week. Gary submitted his suggestion to where we should go this week 1. No word on whether or not his was selected as such, but for the first week, we will be heading out to the Briarwood at Oak Mountain game, Herdmont Park, fresh turf. It looks great out there. It's gonna be a fun night. This was a game last year that Briarwood really won 21-0 really handily. But when you start the season with a local county rivalry, there's a lot of high hopes for both sides. I will be on the sidelines there on Friday night. Really looking forward to it. Gary, I know this game's right up your alley, but kind of stole this one away from you this week.
Yeah, I'm not sure Briarwood Christian has to hit the gas pedal to get to this game, so that's a fun little trip there. Just coast down 119 to Herdmont, but these games they're hard to talk about, for a week 1 where, there are going to be guys that step up that you're like, who is that guy? That's going to happen in all of our games. But, we've touched on Luke Reynolds. You know what you're getting with him at Briarwood Christian. And then Will Odell, returning quarterback at Oak Mountain, who seems to have had a really good offseason and just working and working. So I'm really interested to see, how he plays, but more interested to see what guys are going to step up around him. Oak Mountain's coming off a really, really tough, 1-9 season in Shane McComb's first year. They weren't able to do a lot well last year. The defense struggled, offense struggled. It was just kind of a struggle all the way around. So kind of that year 1 to year 2 jump, what kind of depth do you have at Oak Mountain? What kind of young guys are going to step up? And, who are some names that by the end of the night, you're going to go, ooh, I need to watch that name, this next week or, the rest of the year or whatever. So I think it's a fun matchup. Like Oak Mountain's struggles in the past notwithstanding, they are still a 7A school with 7A numbers and that kind of thing. And, Briarwood's a 5A team. So, and they're much more, they've been better. They've been more competitive. So I think it'll be a fun kind of matchup. Like you said, a local, very local rivalry. I'm not sure that it's the longest par 5 in the world to get from Briarwood Christian to Herdmont. So,
Yeah.
I think that'll be a fun one, and get a good barometer on both teams.
Yeah, I agree. I will give you mentioned names to watch and guys that'll step up and you go, who is that? And I think one guy that will do that for Oak Mountain this season is wide receiver Zach Fitzgerald. Missed most of last year with an injury, but I mean, if you saw Oak Mountain, they just really struggled. On offense, it was a matter of, Will Odell just quite frankly didn't have enough time to make any plays, and he didn't feel, and when he did have time, he didn't necessarily have the playmakers that he had that connection with. And so this year, I think Zach Fitzgerald is going to be one of those guys that really gives Odell an option on the outside. So look out for that. Marty Myrick's back in the backfield for Oak Mountain is somebody that Shane McComb's really high on as well. So they're saying all the right things at Oak Mountain. McComb's entering year 2, and they've got if you saw the stuff on social media, they just got a new partial turf field in their little indoor up by the baseball field at Oak Mountain. So they're making moves at Oak Mountain. They're getting some improvements, locker room stuff. They're getting some stuff. So they're saying all the right things, making all the right moves so far, and now we get to see how it plays out on Friday night. And we touched on Briarwood, and you're right. This should be a good competitive game, even if it is 5A versus 7A. Now this is a county rivalry. All these guys have grown up playing sports together. There's a lot of familiarity amongst. So it'll be fun. I mean, it's going to be, it's like you said, you don't have anything to base it off of yet other than guys' names and past production. So
Right.
It would be silly for me to sit up here and go, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen in this game, because quite frankly, I don't.
Yeah.
All right. So Gary, where are we sending you the first week? I think you're going to Hewitt Trussville.
Jag at Hewitt Trussville.
And
I might
Jag
not
is
have to
coached
get
by
Roy Upchurch. Do you remember him from the 2009 Iron Bowl?
It's one of the most painful memories of my existence as a sports fan. So yeah.
Shout
I
out Greg
remember that.
McElroy for the throw.
There's only been a few times in my life that I just sat in a sense of inevitability that was so strong there was nothing I could do about it. And one of those was the 2009 Iron Bowl when Roy Upchurch scored the game-winning touchdown. That whole drive, I just knew. And I could never have a comparison to that situation until Auburn muffed that punt. And I didn't know, I never talked the rest of that game. Even at 4th and 8,000, I knew the game wasn't over because I felt it. I knew it was coming. So thanks to Roy Upchurch for being one of the authors of trauma in my life.
Well, it's been a great podcast. Let's end it right there.
Yeah, seriously. So all that to say, no, but Roy Upchurch is the head coach at Jag, which is a school in Montgomery. I've already seen some questions. If you aren't actively paying attention, there are 2 schools in Montgomery that were renamed last year. Jag is one of them. Percy Julian is the other. So those are names that you see now in schools that they used to be Lee and Jeff Davis. So Jag is a school out of Montgomery. They'll be coming up here to play Hewitt Trussville. Gary, you will be out there at that one. What do you think about the Huskies this year? They got a lot of new faces to figure out.
Yeah, I think this is a very fun team to watch this year. Maybe not this game. You know, who knows what Jag is going to have, but you know that program, even when it was Jeff Davis, is I think they've had one winning season since coming up to 7A a decade ago. You know, 0-10 recently. You know, so Hewitt Trussville, though, you know, you got to replace quarterback Peyton Floyd, and you know Noah Dobbins is going to slide in there, and we'll see what he can do. But Hewitt Trussville is always going to have playmakers. You know, there are guys on both sides of the ball that are electric. You know, you've got Michael Igbenogany on defense. You've got some other guys. You've got C.J. Davis. We'll see what he is like as a running back. You know, being so young. Deuce Austin's in the backfield, and so I think this will be not a statement game. I think Hewitt Trussville will play really well, even for a week one, you know, get all the kinks out kind of game. I don't see this one being, you know, close by any means, but I'm really interested to watch Hewitt Trussville as the season goes on, as they get into region play and that kind of thing, because you know, Coach Josh Lloyd did tell me over the summer, you know, like this group has a chip on its shoulder, and you know, to some degree that's coach speak. But if guys are rallying around a certain belief or a certain cause, you know, and they're ready to take that next step, you know, that they did that last year in the playoffs, kind of took that next step. And I think they're looking for this year as maybe the one to kick that door down. So interested to follow them this fall.
Absolutely. One of the other headlining games, we've got Homewood at John Carroll. Last year, never would have thought, but this ended up being one of our best games of the year, with John Carroll pulling off the crazy upset over Homewood. Unfortunately, I get the sense that this year's game won't quite live up to that, because like I said, like Homewood and John Carroll are on opposite paths. Like Homewood is coming into this year with the momentum of experience, knowing what's going on. John Carroll's at the end of that, where they had a great year last year, and now they've got to find a new group of guys to make some things happen. So I think Homewood's got the edge here. That's a tough start for a John Carroll team trying to break in some new guys.
Yeah, I mean, they lost so much of their production. I mean, Carson McFadden, we talked about him all year last year, you know, and he was kind of one of those guys. I mean, on offense, he's unbelievable at quarterback, but he'd come in and play safety and get a pick every now and then, make tackles on special teams. He was everywhere. Then he also had, you know, really good running backs in the backfield, Mitchell Nutter and Zach Archer, who are gone now. So Karan Wright, I think, is going to get his, you know, name your number of carries. I think he might get them. And, you know, breaking in a new quarterback in Garrett Barnes, he's got the size, you know, he's more of a pocket passer kind of guy. So we'll see how that develops. Aubrey Walker is a great player for John Carroll, just an incredible athlete. You can put him at running back, wide receiver, DB, punt return. He can do a lot of things. So he's definitely a name to watch this fall. But like you said earlier, for Homewood, you know, Will Myers is back. Caleb Carson's out there. You can stretch him. Kylan Newell, Evan Ogsmer. Like, I think Homewood has, you know, maybe more options offensively to be as versatile as they want in I don't know how many years. That they just seem like a team that, you know, it seems like any play call they want to make, they have the option to make based on their personnel this year. So I'm kind of with you on Homewood, that I think they're going to have a really big year.
I agree with you. So let's see. Mobile Christian paying a visit to Chelsea. This was kind of a Chelsea had to scramble to figure out this game after their first option fell through there. Mobile Christian, a little bit lower classification, but they've been really strong. I would think Chelsea has the edge here, but overall, you know, we kind of touched on them at the start. Chelsea moving down from 7A to 6A. Coach Todd Cassidy's been very vocal the last couple of years about Chelsea belonging in 6A, and he feels like this team will be a lot more competitive this year. This will be a good game to break in some new pieces. You know, they've got a new quarterback in Miller Bauman, and you got to replace a guy like Emerson Russell in the backfield, who was so good for a few years there. And we'll see. This Chelsea team is they're gonna. they're gonna have their work cut out for them in that region. But I think this is a good starting point for them to kind of figure it all out, get everybody in front of the at this stadium. I don't know if you've seen the stadium at Chelsea recently, but the upgrades they did to it, it looks outstanding.
It's awesome. It looks really good. And you took the words out of my mouth about Chelsea. What are we going to get with Miller Bauman replacing Emerson Russell, who the last couple of years has pretty much been their offense. Little outmanned, being one of the smaller 7A schools. Now they're back kind of where they belong, so to speak, in terms of comparisons and numbers. And I don't know what Mobile Christian will be bringing up here. I don't know anything about who's graduated or what, but 4A state champs last year, 15-0, scored 600 and something points. If they're bringing back a decent percentage of that output, yeah, that's definitely a quality opponent, 4A or not. So that's a really good test right off the bat, regardless of classification.
Yeah, for sure. Let's roll through some other ones. Hueytown paying a visit to Clay Chalkville. We touched on Clay earlier to see how the 6A champs kind of respond to a season of change as they get going. Gary, I want to ask you what you think about Mountain Brook. The Spartans are paying a visit to 5A Demopolis to start the year, which is a little bit kind of out of left field if you ask me, but who knows? I mean, road trips are always good for team bonding and kind of figuring out what you got. So this will be an interesting trip. At Demopolis is probably an hour and a half down the road from Mountain Brook. That's going to be quite a haul.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And a guy you're not hauling down there is Cole Gamble, who graduated.
Yeah.
And so, just in terms of offensive production, like, who's the next guy up? Who are the playmakers going to be? They've lost a lot in recent years, a lot of production the last couple of years. So, Caden Hoffbauer at quarterback, what's he going to be like? I don't know. That's why we will go cover the games and we'll see how it is. But, I kind of like what Coach Chris Yeager told you in the Under the Lights preseason magazine. He likes a team like this that kind of has that unknown about them. They're young, they're coachable. We've seen them make flashes in practice and scrimmages and that kind of thing. But when the lights come on a Friday night, what are they going to be? So some experiences back on the offensive line, which is obviously a Spartan staple. So you always feel good about the offensive line at Mountain Brook. So we'll see who steps up on that offense, and a defense that also has lost a lot of guys. I think they've got just a couple of starters back. So a lot of unknown at Mountain Brook, which kind of makes them intriguing.
I agree. Like if you look on the defensive side of the ball, they've only got a couple of starters back. I mean, that whole defense is new names essentially. So Shane Stearns will have his work cut out for him as the coordinator over there. And then, like you mentioned, that offensive side of the ball, I think they do have a few O linemen back from last year, and that'll give at least some sense of familiarity for Stuart Andrews, who's kind of taken that mantle from Cole Gamble. And Coach Yeager told me over the summer, he's like, the drill as a running back at Mountain Brook. Like, you're going to get it 20 to 30 times a game, and that's just how it is. So you got to be ready for that. Now, like you said, I think there's so many questions. I think the talent level of this Mountain Brook team is a little bit down compared to what they have been. But if you look at their region, I still think they make the playoffs. And if that team makes the playoffs, they make the strides that a well-coached team like Mountain Brook always is. If they make those strides, they're not going to be an easy out for anybody come playoff time, even if it is a struggle just to get there with a young team learning how to do everything.
Right. Yeah. Intriguing team.
No doubt. We already talked about Spain Park a little bit. They're going to host Sparkman first game. That'll be a good test. Good thing about these non-region games, you can challenge yourself and it really not affect you one way or the other in terms of playoff hopes. And then the last game we really need to touch on that we haven't already, Vestavia Hills is opening the season in Montgomery at the Crampton Bowl on Friday night as part of the AHSAA Kickoff Classic. They're playing a Carver Montgomery team that is loaded with talent. Somebody told me not too long ago that most people just don't know what's coming from this Carver team. When you merge schools,
it was Jeff Allison. We were all talking about that.
When you merge schools and get an influx of talent from another school that kind of closes down in the area, you're really set up for success. I got a brand new coach in Bobby Carr who's done big things at the AISA level over the years. So Robert Evans went viral with one of his quotes at the media day last week. And if you haven't heard it, I'll post it. If you haven't seen it already, go to my feed and we'll make sure you see it. But this Vestavia team has got its work cut out for them against Carver.
Yeah, I'm one of those people too. You know, I did one of those preseason ranking things where I'm not going to do this stuff every week. I'm not going to update it every week. I was just like, here's what I think preseason for 7A, 6A, and how it might shake out, you know? And I think I had Carver somewhere in the top 5, maybe in Class 7A. And I mean, you're getting Bobby Carr, who is incredibly well respected. His record speaks for itself. You know what it reminds me of? Just to put on the Bammer hat again. It reminds me of Kalen DeBoer a little bit. You know, he's kind of won everywhere he's been. He's been at some really small, kind of off the wall type places, you know, and then bam, he's at the highest level, right? So I think, especially with merging those schools and the talent that's in that area with a coach like that, I think Carver Montgomery is primed to shock a lot of people. And like you said, Vestavia Hills has their work absolutely cut out week in and week out. I was joking with Coach Evans about that not too long ago. You know, you play that 7A Region 3 schedule, and your non-region schedule is Carver, Montgomery, Auburn, and Clay Chalkville. I mean, if we want to talk about hardest 10 games in the state, look no further than Lime Rock Road over in Vestavia Hills.
No doubt. And then we talked about it with Coach English a little bit. Hoover making the trip down to South Florida to play on Saturday night for that one. So that's a full slate of games, Gary. We got a lot of things coming at you week 1. I think some people still call it week 0. That doesn't make any sense to me. So we just call it week 1 from now on. There's 11 weeks in the regular season. Anyways, week 0 makes sense until you get to week 1. And then when you start telling people it's week 1 and you've already played a week, that doesn't make any sense anymore.
No. Hey, I don't want to get on my soapbox. It's simple, you know. It's the first games. It's the first week. It's week 1.
Yeah.
Let's do away with this week 0. So it's week 1. We start with 1.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so that's our schedule for the week. Big thanks to our friends at Sinlong for bringing the podcast to you this year. Gary, we're going to wrap up with a goal line stand. Most weeks we'll actually come up with something really clever to talk about. Clever is a very relative term. But we just want to make sure everybody knows. The Under the Lights team, we're going to be all over the place this fall, covering the high school football scene. All 11 schools that you find in our magazine, we'll be there. We'll be at their games. We'll be bringing you all the action. So follow us on all the social media sites. We're there on all of them, I think. So you'll be able to find us in your normal spots at your Vestavia Voice, your Hoover Sun, all of those places. You'll still be able to find the coverage of your team, but we wanted to roll all of our coverage into one spot, and that's where you'll find us, the Under the Lights, the magazine, the social media channels, all that stuff. So, Gary, I'm looking forward to Friday night. We're going to make sure during the week we will let everyone know which reporters are going to be covering which games, so that you can not have to blow up people's phones at 6:45 on Friday night going, wait, who's at this game? We're going to make sure you know that. So, Gary, you got any final thoughts before we wrap up this preseason pod?
No, just excited for year 17 and, year 17 doing this. So my coverage years, like I told you the other day, can get into an R-rated movie now. So older and older, but still enjoy covering the game just as much as I did year 1. So looking forward to another great year.
Yep. And if you're one of the many coaches, administrators, players, parents that pay attention, that listen, that follow throughout, we really appreciate it. We can't wait for another great year. Any ideas? We're all ears. I'm at Kyle Parmley on Twitter. Gary's at Gary A. Lloyd. We'll be around. We can't wait to hear from you, and we can't wait to get this 2024 season started.